Well, the flaws related to Melbourne's catastrophic hotel quarantine system have again been blown wide open. Each and every week we're hearing a little bit more. And that video today gave us a real insight into the culture of who was behind the program. A leaked internal video by Global Victoria, which is usually in charge of overseas trade missions, was telling in that they thought that they'd done a fabulous job, and now we know what we know. All this despite having no experience in a project like this. Not their fault. They probably tried their very best, but there should have been health people there, police officers there, members of the ADF, as occurred in other parts of Australia, and yet they were proud of their work. Quite extraordinary. Social commentator Prue McSween joins me from Sydney, and former Labor Senator Stephen Conroy from Melbourne as well. Hey, Stephen Conroy, I love that wallpaper behind you. Did you roll it yourself?
This is a hanging textile.
A hanging textile?
It is. Some might unkindly say it's the carpet that we put on the wall, but my wife assures me it's a hanging textile.
Excellent. Good. It's movable. I like it for all of these crosses. I love it. Now, tell me, Prue, this video looked like a carefully choreographed, almost an episode in a series for a political satire on the ABC.
Well, it was just a typical government propaganda piece where these smug, self-satisfied public servants decide to, tell the world what a great job they did, except they talked about the stakeholders, the airlines, the Sky Bus, all these other peripheral people like, the hotels, etc. They just forgot to plug into one thing: securing the right security people who had the credentials and the stringent health policies to be able to do the quarantine security the way it should be done. It's all very well to congratulate yourself because you got dates for people who are celebrating Ramadan or jellies for a pregnant woman. But frankly, if you don't get the basics right, and we know that they didn't, that they really are clueless, and it's a disgrace and a sad indictment. And yet again, the way that the Andrews government has been, performing or underperforming. And, it's just endemic throughout his whole public service team, clearly.
Stephen Conroy, I don't think we should leave Brett Sutton out of this, because he keeps telling us that he had nothing to do with hotel quarantine, and I believe him. But that shouldn't preclude you, as the Chief Health Officer, to look at a program involving probably the most infected people in your community at the time and trying to work out whether you should actually have some say in the way they're quarantined.
Well, look, I think once they set the guidelines down, this is what you need to do to keep someone in quarantine. That's probably short of him actually going down and doing a tour. And he did have a lot of other things going on. I think, Chris, you were generous. You said that they were very well-meaning. I watched all 8.5 minutes of it late last night when it turned up, and you really did have to cringe. In their defence, they weren't in charge of choosing the security staff. They were setting up a new program to try and take into account all of a range of other factors.
Yep.
But having said all of that, it really was a very unfortunate video. Probably, I think, Prue, you'd agree that the Department of Finance, I think either late last year or possibly early this year, but I think it was late last year, produced a video about how to be recruited by the Department of Finance, which was equally cringeworthy. It didn't have as shocking a consequences as this program.
Yeah.
But I think we should ask the public servants to probably hire some professional staff to advise them on producing these sorts of self-promotions. Because
I don't think they should be doing it all, Stephen. Why are they wasting money it's propaganda. It's like politicising the Andrews government. You don't need to tell people.
I don't think this was for public consumption, Prue. I don't think they spent a lot of money on it. I think it was an internal departmental piece of work. It certainly didn't look like it was produced by any external people. And I'm sure no one is going to put up their hand if they were hired and say we did it.
Although they know how to suck up to the Premier. The only news grad they used was a line that said, and they got a taxi home thanks to Premier Daniel Andrews.
Yeah,
no, thanks to the taxpayer. Anyway, I want to move on. Former Victorian Premier Jeff Kennett has lashed out at Victoria's Liberal opposition party, saying, I've been disappointed at what I would say the lack of leadership being shown by the opposition. Do you think Michael O'Brien, Prue McSween, has been in the right place at the right time and saying the right things?
Well, it's hard to say. Look, when he's been on Peter's show, for example, I've found him quite impressive. He looks diminutive. He doesn't look like a politician. He doesn't come out necessarily with all guns blazing. And we have to be mindful that the media only, he has access to them if they allow him to have access and give him the coverage that he may be trying to get. You look at Richard Reardon, you look at Tim Smith, they're much more savvy, I think, in the media stakes, and they seem to be getting out there more. But, if there was ever a time and an opportunity to get at Andrews, this is it. But, of course, if you don't have the access to the media, and the media are pretty... in Andrew's corner. I mean, we've seen that before. It's like they're only just starting now to skewer him. So I think it may be very hard for the Liberal opposition to get their chance in the sun.
Stephen Conroy, it's a tough position to be in as an opposition spokesperson or even an opposition leader, because you don't want to be seen to be politicising a pandemic which is causing the death of people, yet at the same time your job is to highlight the inadequacies of the other side.
Yeah.
Look, there's two very important points that you make there, Chris. The first is that's right. If you look around the country right now and you say, how's the Western Australian opposition going? How's the New South Wales opposition going? How's the Queensland opposition? How's the Northern Territory
your mate
opposition?
Albo
South
doing?
Australia. All of that. And Prue's thrown in, how's Albo going? At a time like this, the public wants solutions. They don't want grandstanding politicians scoring points. No question, it's very hard. I would, though, however, counsel any opposition from either political party, and I'll highlight what I mean by this in a second, from taking the advice of Sydney-based media people. That would potentially include you, Chris, because this train wreck that has been caused by the Queensland opposition leader to our own chances in the Queensland election, by following the Sydney media demanding the borders be opened, coupled with the Western Australian opposition leader, fell for the same scam, watches Sky, decided needed to open the borders. She's going to lose a job, is my prediction.
Well, they've rowed back on that now. They've rowed back on that now.
They had to, because she didn't want to lose a job.
Yeah.
And you've seen the second round of closures. The Sydney media suddenly worked out, oh dear, if we go hard against Palaszczuk, she's looking like the smartest politician in the country at the moment, apart from Mark McGowan. No one is suggesting that Tasmania open its borders today. Nobody's suggesting that South Australia change its position. The Sydney-based media that got on this bandwagon and drove a number of oppositions to stupid positions, and now the Sydney-based media, Jeff's the first person in Victoria to openly undermine O'Brien. But that's not, I've known Jeff a long time, and he is famous for undermining his own coach at Hawthorn, and now he's undermining the leader of the opposition, so he's got form. But I would genuinely counsel the New South Wales media to stop trying to destabilise the leader of the opposition.
Okay. And yet at the same time, Gladys Berejiklian and the New South Wales Premier, Prue McSween, has kept the borders open at every turn, except when Victoria...
No, she hasn't.
Hang on, except when...
I can't go to Sydney.
Hang on, except when Victoria got this massive influx, this second wave of community transmission, but she tried to keep the borders open as much as she can, and I don't see too much negativity towards Gladys Berejiklian right now from people within New South Wales.
100%. And, I just think that Stephen's very clever. He tries to deflect. But, what about his mate Albo and Chris Bowen? I mean, they're throwing grenades as much as they can, trying to seek some relevancy in this argument. So, in fact, it's not really an argument in the whole issue that's, been created. And I know it's very hard for oppositions when they haven't got a seat at the table, but, be constructive, don't nitpick. And really all it's doing, as we can see by that news poll, it's not doing Albanese any favours at all. He should shut up and just play ball.
Yeah, it's hard.
Chris, I'd have to disagree with Prue there. I think
of course.
I've agreed with some of what you said today, Prue, but in particular, Albo and the team have been pointing to the failings in the aged care centres, the nursing homes, and they've been pilloried for it. Mm. And yet today, the Royal Commission belled the cat.
Yeah.
Albo and Chris Bowen have been right.
All right, I want to duck in with this one just before we let you go. Mm-hmm. Going back to Queensland, funnily enough, so close to a state election, the government has quietly relaxed rules, banning government advertising within 6 months of polling day. The rules now allow advertising to continue till the caretaker period begins on October 6th. Stephen, she'll manipulate everything, including borders, to make sure she gets over the line in October.
Look, there's some very serious health issues that the Queensland government need to keep the Queensland public on top of. I think that I've lived through plenty of government advertising from all political parties in lead up to the election that have gone close to, if not crossed the line. And Anastasia Palaszczuk has taken advantage of the situation, that the collapse in the economy and the state of the health crisis, to change the rules so that she can highlight her strengths.
Oh, Steve. Jeez. Jeez, that is really, really... Look, but to be serious, when I saw Daniel Andrews today not answer any questions, Prue, and when I hear what Anastasia Palaszczuk does, you've got to give them one thing, both of them. They're bloody good politicians.
Well, they're tryhards and they're con artists. And let's hope the people who vote for them will wake up and realise that Andrews is dynamite for that state. And if they vote for that man again, then they deserve everything they get. And if they vote for Palaszczuk, who's run that government, economy into the ground, then, again, they deserve everything they get.
I got to run. Prue, Stephen, thank you very much to both of you.